Let's go take back our country.
With black men having such skyrocket mental health issues in America, if you want to begin to fix the issue, right, you have to first deal with the mind. We talk about mental health, but it's really brain health, right? Because there's one thing to give a person an opportunity, but when your mind is already messed up, you can't even focus to take the opportunity because you're cycling on the problems that you just went through. Poverty-induced stress and trauma, right, creates this cycle of different health effects to where you have all of these issues and then you can't even afford to go get them fixed because you don't have money. So the very thing that causes your problem keeps you in the cycle of the problem.
Yeah, so let me just tell you how I think about this. I've been an environmental attorney for 40 years. My first case as an environmental lawyer was representing the NAACP in trying to stop a waste transfer facility that was being sited in the oldest black community in the Hudson Valley in Austin, New York. This was a middle-class community. It wasn't poor, but it was being placed there because they didn't have the political power to kick it somewhere else. What I learned then is that 4 out of every 5 toxic waste dumps in America is in a black neighborhood. The largest toxic waste dump in America is Amiel, Alabama, which is 85% black. The highest concentration of uncontrolled toxic waste dumps in America is the south side of Chicago. One of the biggest health crises in this country is 44% of urban black children have lead contamination. Now, today, you made a really important point, which is the health impacts in black communities. One of the reasons for that is these are food deserts. They're getting bad food. They're 100%. Getting processed food. And they're being mass poisoned by it. When my uncle was president, 6% of Americans had chronic disease. Today, 60% do, and the amount with black Americans is much higher. American blacks were dying of COVID at a rate of about 3,500, 3,200 per million population. In Haiti, 80 miles south of Florida, the death rate was 14 people per million population. Processed food is what is poisoning us, and the medicated, the pharmaceuticals. And so, my solution to that is, one, I'm going to get NIH to stop making drugs to treat chronic disease, and instruct them, spend their budget, $42 billion budget, finding out exactly the contaminants that are causing and then eliminating them. Also, the biggest industry in rural areas in this country is prisons. They're now mainly private prisons, which are a crime against humanity. And they're doing what you're saying. They're monetizing human misery, right? And they're not spitting out graduates who are now thriving. They're spitting out recidivists who are going to be back a year later. And they're factories for abuse. It's not a mechanism for creating wholesome communities and belief in our country and love for our country and love for our communities. And that's what we need to start doing. And the people who are in there because they're convicted of drugs should not be in those facilities. They should be in a place where they're getting treatment, where they're getting training, where they're getting job training, life training, and spiritual enlightenment, spiritual enrichment, because that ultimately we have to be able to induce in people who are enveloped in despair. We have to be able to induce in them profound spiritual realignment so that they're living on another plane, so that they understand that God is out there, that He's watching them, that He loves them, and that they have hope for their lives. And, that is going to be my major program when I get into the White House, is to reclaim all these people who have been lost.